Should you become a first-time home buyer, your primary residence, or a real estate investor? That's today's show. Let's dive into it. Hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natalie Morris.
And hello, freedom fighters out there. Welcome to the Investing in Real Estate show. This is the show where we teach you how to build passive income and achieve financial freedom so you can spend more time with your family. And the vehicle that we use to get there is buy and hold real estate. How are you, my love?
I'm great, thank you. I got a towel from the dryer and draped it over my legs. It's so nice and warm and cozy. So if I disappear from the screen, I'm going to be just hidden under this nice warm towel.
Here's a little secret about my wife, which is like during the fall when it starts to get crisp in the air, and it's today it was like 39 degrees when we woke up, and it's going to be like a high of 50 degrees here on the East Coast. Beautiful sort of pumpkin weather. She turns into like a cat, where
I'm always freezing.
Cats like migrate to like heating vents and things like that. So at night, like Natalie will sit down with like her iPad and read a book, or she'll sit down, near a heating vent or the fireplace. She just moves around. So anytime there's like a heating source, you can find her nearby it.
Right. I was thinking though, I wear long sleeves and pajama pants all year round because Clayton freezes me in the summer with the air conditioning. Mm-hmm. But now it's actually appropriate clothing. So for anybody who watched our YouTube video, my thumb's getting better. So thanks for the concern on that. Today we're going to talk about where you should funnel your money, whether you should buy a home, become a first-time home buyer, or invest in real estate. And I have to say, I'm not convinced either way, but I can make strong arguments for either, which is why we should remind you we are not financial experts. We're people who try and help you lay out all the cards, understand the system, and then make the best choices. The point of this podcast is for you to learn new things, learn new arguments, learn new tactics, because we're learning them too, and we help you to sort of weigh things better than I want to say that's better than you would get from like a financial advisor who's not a fiduciary, right?
Right, exactly. And, I have an excited episode because we have a guest coming up on our show in the near future who is a financial advisor and is so angry about the fact that financial advisors don't seem to understand real estate investing. So we're going to talk about this disconnect between financial advisors and the power of real estate investing, but that's for another show. But a little background, if you're new to the show, I know that we saw a huge spike in our downloads. So a couple 100,000 new people listening to the show. So thank you so much. If you're new to the show, Natalie and I are married. We've been longtime real estate investors. We've rehabbed thousands of homes. Our company is called Morris Invest. So we do that for our clients as well. But we also are real estate investors. So we are in the trenches buying properties for ourselves in order for our family to be, at financial freedom. And we try to help as many people as we can here with free information. So go out there, take action, and be a real estate investor with this information. It's totally free. So we hope we can help you in that regard. Today's episode, we had a question, and it's all framed around Brandon. Brandon is a listener of our show, and he wrote on our Facebook page, he asked this question. Hi, Clayton. First of all, thank you so much. You and Natalie have set my family on a totally new path, and I will definitely be booking a call with your team soon. But before I do, though, I wanted to suggest a topic for your podcast or blog that would help me and my friends and my family. I have a friend that is about to buy his very first home and his wife and kid in town where he's employed by a university. I also have a brother that is reaching the same stage in his life, and he will probably be buying a home soon there as well. The topic I'd like to hear your thoughts on is if it's a good idea to become a first-time home buyer, or if you should skip that step and become an investor instead. Great question. So I have a lot of feelings about this. I have a lot of thoughts about this. By the way, I have a whole video on our YouTube channel about why I think the home you live in is one of the worst investments you can make. And I'm not alone in that. That is not an original idea. That comes right out of Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That most people build this paradigm, the American dream, around this idea that the American dream is to own the home you live in, and that's it, right? That's how you build wealth.
Right.
And not true, not at all true that that's the number one way to build wealth. Why do you think that is?
Well, because when people think that they are real estate investors because they own the home that they live in, most of the time they are banking on their home appreciated in value. So they think, well, I've put my largest chunk of cash into this asset, and this asset will then perform because it will appreciate, which is a really risky bet. We saw that in 2008. We saw it 10 years before that. Usually there's like a big real estate crash every 10 years, and we see that our home values plummet, and then usually they come back around the same price, and then they plummet again, unless you're in one of those sort of odd outlier type markets like the Bay Area or New York City or Chicago, right? Even those places are not impervious. I had a condo in San Francisco that dropped to over $100,000 less than I paid for. And now if I had sold it, it would be over $200,000 more than I paid for. That's crazy, right?
Right. That's speculative.
But sort of the rich dad, poor dad paradigm has us thinking that we need to use our money to buy things that perform for us, right? So
Right.
a primary home that you want to live in a neighborhood is usually doesn't fit that bill, right?
Wait, yeah, the home.
As a performing asset.
Exactly.
Is your home a performing asset?
So that's a great point. Now, there are a couple of caveats to this. So if you happen to live in a good rental market, for instance, where we do like our rentals, right, in the Midwest and other areas of the country, where the return on investment is very high. That means that you can purchase the property for a low cost, taxes are low, and the ability then for that return on investment to be there. So if the mortgage cost is going to be dramatically low, right? You need to weigh those things. But that's kind of rare. Like chances are you're not going to be living in that kind of a spot. But there are some other caveats to this, right? And a lot of people do what's called a house hack. So in the case, Brandon, of your friends, there might be an opportunity for them to purchase a duplex, right, in the town where they live, near that university that you're talking about, and live in one side of the duplex and then rent out the other side of the duplex. And now you're a real estate investor because that other side of the duplex is now paying your mortgage to live in the other side. Now, what if you just own that duplex outright as a rental property and two families lived in there and you're getting the rent from both of those and you rented another place? There's the opportunity there. So you rent an entirely different apartment in the town where you want to live, or you want to rent a house in the town where you want to live, and you own this duplex. Now, two families are paying you rent. So there are some caveats. You could buy a threeplex. Kevin Weinhold, who was on the show, he was gracious enough to have me on his show. That episode will be upcoming. The very first property he bought was a fourplex, and he lived in one side of the fourplex, and the other three he rented out. And he made a mistake because he rented it out to young, good-looking women. And when they would tell him that they didn't have rent, he just would kind of say, "Okay, that's okay." So that's a mistake too. Like, don't fall for the good-looking women as your tenants, because they'll be like,
"There's a movie about that."
Clayton, I'm sorry, I just can't pay the rent this month. Oh well. Oh, that's okay. Don't worry about it.
Does that mean then you have the right to peep in there when they're changing and things like that? You take those kind of privileges? What kind of creepy landlord does that?
I don't know. Where'd you come up with that creepy idea?
Probably it was on a movie. I don't know. I was thinking of what's the movie While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock?
I was thinking about
her landlord is super creepy and he's always hanging out in her house and she's like, "Get out of here."
Now, what's that movie where what's her name from where she lives in a hotel or she lives in an apartment building, but it's all like wired with video cameras and
I don't know.
Sliver.
I had a landlord like that. Remember, who he was like I noticed
come home and he was in your apartment.
Table.
Yeah, you would come home and he was like in your apartment, and I was like, this guy just like comes in your apartment on a regular basis. You're like, I know, but he's just like an old guy, just
He was.
No.
He goes, one day I came home, he goes, "I noticed you didn't have a kitchen table, so I put one that I had an extra up there." And I was like, "Thank you, but why did you notice that?"
He's like, I noticed your bed was a little wobbly, so I fixed the leg of your bed. And
you just wander in. Yeah. But he was like a really elderly Polish man, so I don't know. Why are we talking about this?
Well, I don't know, because we were talking about this guy who was
my landlord on the upper West Side.
He
and
was
then
just allowing cute women to not pay him rent. So you, of course, run that risk when you're now also suddenly the property manager. So there are some caveats, right? House hacking is a thing. We're going to do some videos on house hacking here on the show to kind of dive a little bit deeper into that, because I've had those questions, but it doesn't suit everyone. Again, it comes down to return on investment. So if you're buying a duplex that's $400,000, and that's fine that you live in one side of it, but to me, that sounds like a terrible investment. A $400,000 duplex, chances are the return on investment is not going to be there. The ROI is not going to be there. So, house hacking is great, but again, it comes back to what neighborhood, what market are you in, and are the numbers sound? So the argument from a lot of high-level investors that I know is that they might own 2, 3, 1,000 rental properties. And guess what? The house that they live in, they rent. They do not own the house that they live in. A friend of our show owns a place in Malibu and lives in this massive house that he rents with an infinity pool that cascades out into the ocean. He's always wanted a place like this. But guess what? He rents it. He lives in this. He's lived there for years. He rents this house, and he has hundreds of rental properties that bring him cash flow. So the argument about the home you live in being the worst investment you can make is, imagine taking that big down payment. So if you have $500,000 house that you're looking at buying, what would be the down payment? What's 25% of that off the top of your head?
What was the purchase price?
$500,000. What's 25% of that?
Is
down payment.
125.
So imagine taking $125,000 that you're going to put down as a down payment on your primary residence. Instead, you buy 2 or 3 rental properties. Like the houses we buy, that would be about 2 or 3 rental properties that might be bringing you about $700-800 a month a piece. Right.
Yeah.
So now you turn that $125,000, according to Robert Kiyosaki, into assets rather than the house you live in, which you don't get to claim depreciation on. You don't get to create a tax shelter. You don't get to claim write-offs. There's a whole host of reasons why you could take that $125,000 and put it into something special like that.
Yes. Okay. But I'm of several minds about this, because I don't think that's the only way to think of that. Because when you think of money as either or, usually that's the way it performs, right? So it's not necessarily a matter of, can I buy real estate and then I cannot buy myself a primary home, because there's a lot of pride that comes along with home ownership. There's a lot of freedom that comes along with it, especially if you pay down your mortgage, like our book tells you to do. And so I want to say, maybe the way he phrased it was, should I skip this step? And I don't want to say you should skip it, but we're talking about how you prioritize it, right? Because this doesn't mean you can never have that.
Right.
This just means that, what are you choosing first? How can you make your money perform first? Because now in our lives, we have gained some financial freedom, and we do use our money sometimes towards things that do not perform, like a vacation. Or,
well, that certainly performs for me.
Pay dividends.
You see me
right?
walk around. Yeah, I love.
But it's not a performing asset.
Right.
Okay.
It's not
yes. It has its value, right? But if we're really only using our money towards things that perform, right? What we're doing is using most of our money towards things that perform, but that doesn't mean it's one or the other. So I think I would rather present this as a choice of what to do first, not what to do, period. Because I think you can have your cake and eat it too. I think if you think that way about wealth, then it will happen.
Okay, so 2 things that you said there, I wrote down on my little Post-it note here. Pride. Okay. So pride of ownership. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can't. That's an intangible, right? So we can't exactly quantify that feeling that I own this house. But do you really? Because unless you own it free and clear, the bank owns.
You're going to tell me how home ownership is burdensome. Please do.
No,
Please
what I'm talking about. Oh, here we go. So I see myself walking myself into a corner. It's like playing chess, when you
I'm
know
listening.
You're about to be checkmated. So how can I quickly get out of this? By saying I just heard the doorbell ringing and I've got to go. I can't talk to you anymore. So pride, right? The idea of pride of ownership.
right?
Yes, yes, you do take great care. Okay, I get to mow my lawn. I paint the outside. My fence is painted nicely, and I want to treat my carpet nicely, and we take great care of it. And this is like I like to come home after a trip to my house, right? Yes,
Right.
that's an intangible. I get that. That's not something you can truly measure. That's intangible. But now you mentioned freedom. The freedom. I would actually say that you're creating less freedom with the ownership of the house that you live in. Now think about the guy who lives in Malibu and has this infinity pool. He rents this place. He never has to pay anything to fix it up. As
Mm-hmm.
a tenant, his landlord is now responsible for upkeeping this property, paying taxes. The door breaks. He's got to go to Home Depot, right? This is an A-class property, so he's going to have to fix, maybe 5 garage doors. Who knows, he's going to have to fix the pool. He's going to have to fix the air conditioning. He's going to have to fix all of these things. So he has more freedom as a renter than an owner of this primary residence. And he's able to enjoy this beautiful house, and he could take pride in it. He lives there. So I've seen a lot of people take pride. I see a lot of our tenants who take pride in the fact that they live in a property with us, and they take great pride. They take care of the trees, the yard, and they're
Right.
there for many years. So I don't know about that.
Well, I didn't say there's no pride in rentership. I said that some people take pride in owning their home. I mean, think of our neighbor over there who has those amazing fall displays, right?
Right.
Every time we see him, he tells me, like this house was a goal of mine. I had been working towards it for years. I came from nothing. Now I put all of my effort into making it beautiful. So, for some people, that's their carrot, right? For you, you want like a certain vacation, a certain car, a certain type of wardrobe, whatever, right? For some people, that's what they really want. So you can't say, oh, it's freedom, it's freeing one way or another. Both ways can be freeing. It depends on your state of mind. But for some people who want those things or feel like they would feel safer with those things or whatever, right? I just hit my microphone because I'm gesturing wildly. For some people, however they see it is fine. What I'm trying to say to you is don't tell yourself you can only have one or the other. Just tell yourself which one am I going to get first in order to get to the other thing, if that's what you want.
Right. Now, Brandon had mentioned something else in his email to us. He said, he'd love to hear this topic, and thanks so much. And they said, but buying my home 5 years ago has enabled me to become an investor now from the equity, but that was sheer dumb luck. Could I have made investment choices and been in a better spot now if I'd made an investment instead of a purchase? Well, I'm not. Chances are, yes. I mean, that question, what you're saying is, so I bought this property and like, are you going to have immediate equity? Unless somehow he's getting this property off market and he's able to get some sort of great deal on this primary residence.
Right, which is something you can think about, right? If you become a real estate investor and you're used to finding off-market properties, remember that place in West Orange that you were like, we should consider this. We'd have to, it was significantly below value for that neighborhood, needed a lot of work. But if we had built that up, and I mean, by now we would be done and we would have a home with probably $300,000 equity that we didn't even put into it, right?
Right.
So there are options for you there if you think that that's what you want to do. You want to find your own primary mortgage off market.
But you're banking on appreciation, and that is speculative. When we invest for cash flow.
Maybe, or you're just finding a home that you find acceptable at a lower rate too. Like I said, I want us to present many different arguments here to think about because
That's
we can't
exactly
tell
what we're
any.
doing. That's
I
exactly
think
what
you're
we're doing.
fighting me.
Well, always. But what I'm saying is, that yes, you can. If you're like his argument is he got dumb luck. No, I mean appreciation. There is no clear. I mean, you if you're investing for appreciation, that is dumb.
Yes.
Because it doesn't. We learned our lesson in the 2008 crash. Investing for appreciation is dumb. And it doesn't exist anymore as an investment. It happens, and you're lucky if it's icing on the cake. Where we invest, we see like a 2.5%, 3% appreciation. Nothing like California's 8%, 7% appreciation. We don't invest for appreciation. It's nice, and we could pull some equity out. Great, that's nice. But if you're buying the house you live in because you think in 5 years it will appreciate, therefore enabling you to take equity out, therefore enabling you to buy rental properties, that is not a smart strategy. That is not a smart strategy. If
Right,
you're tying
right,
up all of your money that you thought you could use eventually by pulling the equity back out into rental properties, it's not going to happen. Yes, the down payment accounts
right.
for some of your equity, right? So you're putting down 20, 25%. But remember that a bank is only typically, for a home equity line of credit, going to give you what, 80% or 75% loan to value.
Right.
So,
And it's not true freedom with the money that's your equity,
right.
right?
It's your money as it is in your own primary
But
residence.
you're
So,
paying someone to use it
right.
on their terms. Right.
Right. Now
We
they're
we
paying an
had this
interest rate.
discussion the other day when we were driving. Remember I talked about like what if we had not bought the home in South Orange with the money that we had come into? What if we had used that? And that's a painful thought.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah. I mean, we would, if
we
we had to go back and
can't.
do it again, would we have taken that money that instead of that down payment, that $200,000 down payment, whatever it was, and bought 4 or 5 rental properties that have
Yeah.
cash flow? I mean, and then rented
But
a
can
house.
we really look at it that way? I mean,
You can, because people do it all the time. I'm saying we're offering up Brandon and his family some opportunities to think differently about this. I mean, this whole podcast episode is around shattering that paradigm that the American dream is built on the home you live in.
right.
You cannot claim depreciation. Yes, you can get a mortgage credit for interest deduction. Who cares? That's minimal to begin with. That's small potatoes in the grand scheme of things. But it's not a great investment. It's not a performing asset. You're not getting to claim it as a tax shelter. You're not get to claim it as a
Right.
performing asset, and it's not building long-term legacy wealth really for you and your family, other than banking on appreciation that you're going to maybe hand it down to your kids someday.
Yeah.
But that's a gamble, and who knows, right? So that's the point. It's just sort of shattering this paradigm a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I think you're doing justice to the fact that this American dream serves American businesses for us to think this way, right?
Right.
And if we think slightly differently, then maybe we can reframe either what we go after, right? What the way we prioritize our purchases, that kind of thing. Because, our real estate investment, the reason we sort of traded up in terms of our home when we had our third child was partly for space, and then also because our real estate investments allowed us to think, okay, we can take on this extra mortgage and we have this plan of attack to take the mortgage down, right? But if we had just sort of done it the way the American dream wants us to think, we would have indebted ourselves for a certain amount. We would have, thought that our primary job would be the only reason we would buy a purchase like this. We would, these are the things that we want you to sort of think around.
Right. Yeah, so interesting to think about. And, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You can leave your questions and comments on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. You can leave them in the comment threads below this. And thank you so much for subscribing to our show. If you haven't had a chance already, please leave us a 5-star review in the iTunes store. If you haven't already done that, we would be so thankful. Any other final thoughts, parting words of wisdom here for Brandon and his family?
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this in terms of life stages too, though, because for us and 3 children, it would be very disruptive to decide we didn't own a primary home and that we would, but I'm not of the opinion that you need space and suburbs and all of it. We had our first child in New York and I thought that was fine, right?
Why would it be
So
disruptive
I think as
to rent a house that you stay in? I have people that rent houses, like our friends, our family. Hold on, our family friends have 3 kids. They live near the school where our kids go to school, right? They have a great house, and they've lived there for years, as long as we've known them, and they have no plans on moving from that house anytime soon, right? Somebody else mows the lawn, somebody else fixes up the house, pays the heat, does all that stuff, takes care of all that stuff. So why would it be disruptive?
Well, I'm talking about moving just in
Yeah,
general, or
moving.
leaving this neighborhood, or, because for some people they decide, okay, well, I'm just going to rent an apartment and live that way. And I'm of the opinion that that's fine. You can, take only what you need in terms of space and land and electricity and all of that stuff, right? But if what he's saying is like this couple has one child, or we don't have kids yet, then those are the times when you can be as flexible as possible with your living situation. I mean, I think everyone should be flexible as possible, and I think that a change in situation would be a great opportunity for my kids to learn to be pliable, but it would be much easier to do if we had no kids. So if you're in that stage of your life where you can be more flexible because there are not more bodies to manage, then that's just another thing to think about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe meet us halfway and do the house hack idea. Like I said, we'll do video and show on that exact topic. But the idea about, hey, move into that duplex. If you're flexible, you don't have the kids, or you don't need to worry about all that big space, split it with somebody else, build up your equity, and buy something else down the road.
Yeah. So, hopefully we've given you things to think about instead of confusing you, but I don't want anyone to think there's only one way to go about it, because, we started investing in real estate when we didn't own any real estate for ourselves. We just lived in an apartment, and that worked fine. And then we bought a house for ourselves, and that works fine too. It's not that you can only do one thing in life. It's just how you go about it. And you have to be able to have all the data and have all the sort of things to put on your scale in order to make your best decision.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Well, I think we want to thank you all for subscribing and downloading this show. It's always a great pleasure to see you every week. And people really love the episodes when Natalie is on here as well. So she comes on and fights me.
It's Wife Wednesdays.
Wife Wednesdays here on the show. And we'll be back on Thursday with another episode. You're not going to want to miss this, because we've got an investor who just kind of got started investing recently and wants to get to 17 properties, getting to 17 properties for financial freedom. We'll sort of walk through that case study as well on tomorrow's episode. But for now, thank you so much, everyone. Go out there, take action, and become a real estate investor. It's the number one way to build legacy wealth for you and your family. There is no better way. When people tell you the stock market's the way, laugh at them. We'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.